Welcome to another video from Garden Design Tools. In today's video it's all about how to prepare your SketchUp model for Lumion use. My name is Katrina, I'm a garden designer and I see you next. Welcome to another video from Garden Design Tools. In today's video it's all about how to prepare your SketchUp model. So 5 tips of elements that I think are really important to make sure your workflow goes smooth and without an issue once you're inside Lumion. So first of all, tip number 1 is have attention to detail in terms of architecture and elements. Of course, as a garden designer or a landscape architect, you much more worried about your garden, how you do the planting, etc., and your actual layout. But if you want to create amazing renderings once you're inside Lumion, things like the level of detail you add to the actual architecture, to the actual windows, for example, okay, they are really important, just to make sure your elements, your renderings are as realistic as possible. Add for example, a pavement to the indoors, even like a living room setting inside. Once you, like for example, in this type of setting that you have a close relationship between indoors and outdoors, so have as much level of detail as you can to roofs, for example. Really important. I used to do roofs really just simple, because I just want to make sure that I have a roof in place. But when I start actually adding more detail to the roof, it just completely changed the overlook of my renderings as well. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, actually have your layout in place. Make sure that all the textures are added as you want inside SketchUp. It doesn't need to be the specific textures you want. You can change them inside Lumion, but just make sure that all the different materials, all the different areas with different materials are applied inside Lumion. So inside SketchUp, so you can actually differentiate them very easy once you're inside Lumion. So all the grasses, for example, even like these small edges here, that I'm going to add a 3D leaf texture when I'm in Lumion. So make sure all this is done inside SketchUp. Tip number 3, all the layout and topography should be worked inside SketchUp. There is no place in Lumion to actually do any land modeling at all. You have some tools inside Lumion, but they are really not, technically they're not specific. You can't really work like you do in SketchUp. So maybe you can use that tools maybe more for context, or if you want to create a river passing through your property or something like this, or in the neighboring property, you can do that in Lumion. But if you really want to be specific, any topography, any actually hard modeling, it needs to be done inside SketchUp before you actually move into Lumion, okay? So that's really important. Tip number 4 is actually have your model organized in layers, especially if it's a big project, if you have a lot of context, if it's imagine that it's an urban area, you have a lot of neighboring buildings, have that layer tagged inside SketchUp so you can easily hide or show, depends on how you want once you're in Lumion, okay? So really easy to do, to show and hide some SketchUp layers and just refresh your model in Lumion. So things like, for example, structures, planters, context, complements, arches, architecture, anything that's, that is going to begin to make your model really heavy, and that maybe there is times that you really want to hide it. For example, if I want to hide the architectural elements, I might want to do some renderings of just really showing my layout. Really important to have that inside SketchUp so I can quickly hide and refresh my model once I'm in Lumion. And tip number 5 is actually clean up your model. Any weird geometry, any flickering textures, when you have two-face textures glued together and it's flickering and you're going to flicker inside Lumion, have that fixed before you actually import your model into Lumion. For example, tools like Solid Inspector are pretty cool to help you fix some specific geometries if you want to make sure that they are all cool and ready to go. Make sure that all your planting is gone. So normally, of course, you have your SketchUp model if you're just working normally with SketchUp, with full of the planting you want, and now everything, really nice, and that's amazing. But this is if you're using just SketchUp, okay? If you want to use a program like Lumion, I really suggest that you take all the planting out. Even if you're using 3D warehouse planting inside Lumion, make sure you import them as separate models once you're inside the program, okay? Because it's just gonna make they are very high geometry models of very high polygons with a lot of detail. That's something to be concerned about as well. When you download any planting from the 3D warehouse, be very concerned about how heavy they are, how much geometry they have, because once you're inside SketchUp or Lumion and you're adding a lot of planting, it gets heavy and heavier and heavier. So take all the planting out, okay? So all the planting is going to be done in Lumion, even if it is a 3D warehouse model. So all you want is your model clean, geometry as clean as possible. All I have here are some lettuces already in place in my vegetable planters. So have the model clean and ready to go inside Lumion. And this is how it looks in Lumion once you do the planting, once you add the textures, etc. So it's pretty cool transformation. Programs like Lumion do this to your SketchUp model. I'll add some images of this actual model and some renderings after that I've done in Lumion in the end of this video for you to check it out. See you guys in the next one.